Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm glad to see you today. I pray that you are having a blessed day. It is windy, it is a little bit chilly, but it's like 69 degrees it says in my car. So it's got to be the wind factor that's making it feel like it's chilly. But I'm going to do a walk and talk. We're down by the river, and I hope you'll enjoy this. I'm going to be talking about just different things to do with the Lord. So I hope you will join me, and let's get going. It's a beautiful day, cloudy. We were in the very low 80s the last 3 days, and now we're supposed to have a weather pattern coming in. So that's good. I'm not ready for summer weather in March. And here's another really weird thing. The trees by my house are budding. They've got leaves on them already, and it isn't even April. And I don't know what is up with that, because usually the trees don't start budding until May, almost May. So our weather patterns are really changing a lot. It is what it is. I should have put a barrette in my hair. Keep my hood on. But anywho, okay. So what do I want to talk about? Well, I'd like to talk about the wonderful things that God does for us. And I'm going to go back to the Israelites. When they were in Egypt, they were enslaved by the Egyptians for 450 some years. And Moses came along, and he was raised in the Pharaoh's palace from a child up, because his actual mother put him in a basket when he was 3 months old because they were killing all the firstborn. And Moses floated down the Nile and ended up in the Pharaoh's palace because it's all God ordained, right? So he grows up, he becomes the leader of the Israel people, and God is going to use Moses to get them out of slavery. How ironic that is, because we're slaves. We are slaves. And we think we have all this freedom, and we have none because we're slaves. So the Jews get out of Egypt, and they not only had to get out of Egypt physically, but they had to get out of Egypt emotionally and psychologically. And God knew that one of the ways that that would happen was through their insolence, through their stubbornness, through their selfishness. As soon as it would get hard times, when they were getting ready to go into the promised land, which, by the way, was a 3-day trip from Egypt to the promised land, it took them 40 years because they were stubborn. They were insolent. They didn't want to abide by what the God of this universe wanted them to do. So they built false idols, and they were worshiping false idols because Moses was up on the top of the mountain, too long to suit them. So they build a calf, and they're worshiping the calf and just doing everything that's an abomination to the Lord. But the Lord never leaves them. He never leaves them. He doesn't give up on them. He doesn't hate them. He doesn't throw them into the dungeon and keep them there. He loves them. And so they start complaining to Moses. We don't have anything to eat. We're hungry. We want to go back to Egypt because they at least fed us there. Okay? And I mean, that's seriously what they were saying. They wanted to go back to Egypt. I got somebody coming, so I'm going to be back. Okay, so, they're just whiny whinersons. And as I'm reading through the book of Genesis and Exodus and Numbers and Deuteronomy, and it's just, it was blowing my mind about how they would forget so quickly what God had done for them. We want to go back. We want to be slaves again, So, and that's the way it is with us in our slavery, which I'll get to. So anyway, what does God do? He feeds his people. And how did he do that? Well, God is, he is just the most amazing, awesome God. And I love that I serve him because he's just incredible. So what he does is in the morning, they get up and there is these wafers laying all over the place in the dew. And it's their food to eat. And he gives a command. You're only supposed to take what you need for the day. Do not take any more than what you need. Well, of course, some of them decide to be very selfish about it, and they take more than what they need. And they're told what to take. An omer for a single person, 2 omers for a family, that kind of thing. But you're not to keep it overnight. That's it. You do not take what you do not need. Well, there were a few stragglers that, no, we're going to be greedy, and we're going to take more than we need. So what would happen is they would wake up the following morning, and this manna, this wafer, would have worms crawling all over it. I think it was worms. Anyway, it was moldy, there's no way they can eat it. So they learned their lesson real quick. I think we should only take what we need. And then in the evening, quail would just fall dead around them. So they had meat to eat in the evening, and they had the wafers to eat in the morning. So God is feeding them. He is providing for them. And he gives the commandments. He has Moses up on the sacred mountain and holy ground, take your sandals off, and the burning bush, and writes the 10 commandments. And Moses breaks the tablets. I don't remember why he broke them, but he was mad at God for some reason. So he breaks the tablets. Well then, anyway, the commandments are there anyway, regardless whether the tablets are broken. So they are to live by these commandments. No sexual immorality. You will have no other gods before me. You know it. The 10 commandments. No murdering, none of that stuff. So, again, things aren't going exactly the way the Israelites want it. And so they're moaning and groaning. We don't have any water. We're thirsty. We want to go back. We want to be enslaved again because we're thirsty. So God hears their cry, and he tells Moses, I want you to strike that rock with your rod. And so Moses, now there's 2 times that a rock gets struck. I don't know if it's this time or the second time, but Moses touches the rock instead of striking it with the rod. And of course that gets God's dander up because they're not listening. Moses did not do what God told him to do. So he said to Moses, you're going to get to the promised land, but you're never going to see it because you disobeyed me. Well, anyway, the rock gets struck by the rod. And how many gallons poured out of this rock? I think it was 100 and some thousand gallons of water. It filled streams and ditches and plenty of water to drink. So now the Lord is giving them manna. He's giving them quail. He's giving them water out of the weirdest possible places. The manna is falling from the sky. The quails are falling from the sky, and the water is coming out of a rock. Okay? But the Israelites continue with their ungratefulness. Oh, they're grateful for a while. They're praising God for half a minute, and then they're right back to their ungratefulness and worshiping other gods and building idols with their hands and worshiping these idols. And they just keep being insolent, and they keep being just stubborn. God called them stiff-necked people because that's what they were. And that's what we are. We're stiff-necked people. We want it, and we want it now. We don't want to have to wait for it. Give it to me now, give it to me now. Well, finally, at some point, I don't know if the quail stopped falling or what happened with that, but these Israelites we're hungry, we want meat. We're tired of just having this manna. So at some point, the quail stopped falling. And, we want meat. We want meat. So God says, okay, I'm going to give you enough meat that it's going to plug up your nostrils. And so many quail fell that it was piled up. Quail were piled up all over the place. And what did these people do? They were gluttons. And they just stuffed themselves with meat until they made themselves sick. So I hope you're picking up more than what I'm, saying out loud. I hope you're picking up the subtleties that are behind our God. He never gives up. He never stops loving us, no matter how much we hate him, how much we don't want to do what he wants us to do, how much we want to go against him. He never stops loving us. He hates the wicked, but he loves us. And so he loved the Israelites. He picked these people for a purpose. They were going to be the seed of David, and David is Jesus. David is the Son of God. And they were going to come through the seed of David. So that's just a little bit of, God just never gives up on his people. And he is constantly saying, if you'll only turn back to me, I will restore your land. If you only turn back to me, I will restore you. If you only turn back to me, you'll have everything you could ever want or need. I just want you to turn back to me. And the Israelites kept turning away and turning away and turning away and turning away. And even after they got into the precious homeland, the promised land, they still continued to turn away and have been doing so ever since. They don't believe Jesus is the Messiah, so they've turned away from that. They won't read the New Testament. They are stubborn. They're stiff-necked people. But so are we. So I just, we need to read the Bible from a different lens than reading it and looking at it and going, man, he's so mean. He's so cruel. He's trying to kill all these people off. Well, these people, which I talked about last week, are pure evil. They were evil. They had no soul. They had no anything. They were hybrid human beings. They weren't even human. They're half demon and half human. And so, yeah, he was trying to kill them off because they're trying to stop the seed of David from even happening. So yeah, God's trying to kill them off for sure, Anyway, so let's talk about our own slavery. So, if you're in the flesh, you're a slave. If you're living in the flesh, you're a slave. And the only way you can get out from under being a slave is to have a relationship with Jesus and then start giving up the things of the world that are enslaving you. Your flesh wants to keep you in bondage. Your flesh is hungry for everything fleshy. It's hungry for food. that is too much to eat. Which is gluttony. It's hungry for sex, which is too much. And it's, sexual immorality, watching porn, all these kinds of things. Your flesh is hungry for tobacco. So you smoke yourself to death. And you pay for that. You pay for that. How much are cigarettes now? What, $6 a pack, $7 a pack? I don't even know. But you're paying to kill yourself. Think about that if you're a smoker. That's slavery. You're a slave to the cigarette. You drink alcohol. You're a slave to the alcohol. Your flesh is a slave. And that's where the devil wants to keep you. And he'll do it through all kinds of subtle means. Or he might be overt about it, but he might be covert about it. He wants your flesh to never know the freedom of God. Well, I can tell you that when you start giving up the fleshy things, like if the Israelites would have let go of all their selfish things that they thought they needed because they weren't getting it anymore, if they would have let go of all that, they wouldn't have been out in the wilderness for 40 years going around in circles. They would have been in the promised land. They would have had peace. They would have had joy. They would have had everything that God was trying to offer them. So, think about what your flesh is doing to you. You're doing to your physical body, which is your flesh. Your flesh is trying to kill itself by all these things that it's hungry for. Because why? Your flesh doesn't know any better. Your flesh is as dumb as it can get. It knows nothing. And so the Lord, if you become a believer, when you become a believer, you start having to face some really hard, and it is hard. I'm not going to sit here and say it isn't, because I've been through it. Things that the Lord is going to ask you to do. And he's going to say, I don't want you smoking that cigarette anymore. It's killing you. And so you start feeling a conviction about that when you become a believer. And pretty soon, you either get sick and tired of feeling that conviction feeling, and you quit smoking, or you tell Jesus to go, bug off, I'm going to keep smoking. And you're trapped in the flesh. But you give up that cigarette. And what happens? Well, the first thing that happens in your body is your heart disease goes way down. The risk of it goes way down. All of the physical symptoms that cigarettes cause start to reduce almost immediately. So you're feeling physical effects of quitting that cigarette, but you're also feeling psychological ones. You're not having to step outside after you eat to go smoke that cigarette. You're not having to go to the store and spend $10 a pack to buy that cigarette. So you're saving money. You're free. Do you hear me? You're free. You have now got freedom from the cigarette. So you overeat. You're a glutton. You're a gluttoner. You overeat. Or you over this, or you over that. You overdo everything in your life. Everything you do, you're overdoing it. You're a glutton. And so Jesus says, now that you're a believer, you really need to stop overeating. Hey, you really need to stop overdoing this, overdoing that. And of course, you're going to fight it at first because Satan's going to be knocking at your door. Knock, 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 knock. Yeah, you don't need to stop that. Yeah, no. Just keep right on going till you put yourself in the grave, and then I own your soul. Okay? So you get convicted because you're a believer, and you're like, I really do need to stop overeating. I really need to stop over this, over that. And what happens when you do? You have freedom. You have freedom. And what's happening to your physical body? You're losing weight because you're not overeating or over this or over that. Your physical body actually starts feeling better. Your psychology feels better. You're lighter in your spirit. Why? Because you're doing what the Lord wants you to do. You drink alcohol. And you drink too much. What happens when you drink too much alcohol? You get sick. You throw up. You wake up the next morning and you feel like total crap. You've got a major headache. You don't even want to crawl out of bed because you've poisoned yourself the night before with that lovely alcohol that you thought was so great to be partying and having a good old time. And oh man, wasn't that a blast last night? Oh man, I got so drunk I couldn't even see straight. It was awesome. Yeah. And then the next morning you feel like you just want to die. Well, welcome to death. Welcome to death. That's what death is. It's feeling horrible when you do stuff that you shouldn't be doing. So the Lord comes along. You're a believer now. I want you to stop drinking. And you're reading in the Bible. We are to be of sober mind. And it convicts you when you read it. And you're like, yeah, okay, I'm going to give up that drinking. I'm going to stop. Well, what happens when you stop drinking? There's freedom in that. Freedom. You're no longer waking up with a hangover. You're not out of your mind drunk at night. You have a clear mind. You're able to think. You're able to process. You're able to function as a normal human being does without the slavery of the alcohol that your flesh is screaming for because you quit. And your flesh will scream for it if you don't put all your trust in God. Oh yeah, it's going to scream for it. But you don't want to listen to that scream. You don't want to be enslaved to that scream of I need the alcohol, because you don't need the alcohol. You can be completely healed from that drinking problem. That drinking addiction, if you want to call it that. Oh, we're just going to look at the sights here because somebody is coming by. So I pray that you understood the message today. That you are a slave on this world as long as you are living in the flesh and not giving it up to the Lord. And it's when you give it up to the Lord that you get the freedom. The truth will set you free. You won't have an addiction anymore. You're free of the addiction. You're free of the slavery. And on top of that, guess what you have? You have something you probably never had in your whole life. A feeling of peace that surpasses understanding. A feeling of joy that isn't happiness. It's joy. There's a difference between joy and happiness. Happiness is fleeting. Joy is a permanent situation. I love you all. I really, truly do. And I just am here to help guide you in the way that the Lord wants you to go by sharing these little stories with you. I will see you next time. Have an awesome week, and bye for now.